Well, Warren Buffett made the majority of his wealth after he was like way, way old. Those compound interest.
Oh, great.
There's some sort of knowledge in there somewhere if someone can interpret that.
Yeah, I don't want to be way old and then be like comfortable, in my.
Too late, Jason. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in case you haven't figured out, Jordan, I guess you already have. Like Mitch and I are the old guys in NerdBrand. We're like the ones like, well, 7 years ago, advertising was done with an advocacy.
I can remember. I can remember when layouts were chiseled out of stone.
Yeah. It was like the Mel Brooks thing. I present you these 10 commandments. The 15, that was advertising rules. All right, well, that's plenty right there for the cold open. So I'm just going to start the show. Welcome to the NerdBrand Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Jason. Yeah. That's Mitch. That's John. And that's our guest here, Jordan Clemons from GLI here. That's Greater Louisville Incorporated, which is the Chamber of Commerce here in Louisville, Kentucky. So we're happy to have you, Jordan. I can tell already you're like one of our people because you started the show with your mask on and like, hey.
Sign of the times.
Oh, yeah, isn't it? We're almost through it. This whole thing here is going to go away, and we'll actually have real cameras and a real podcast, or at least it'll feel that way, right? So anyway, today we're talking about LinkedIn, stuff that, Jordan, you are really passionate about, and businesses that have a lot of questions about it. So it's not too much of a complicated animal, but we are going to dive into that one. But before, Jordan, I give you the floor to introduce yourself. I figured maybe it'd be a little bit fun right now to kind of go through the BrandBit, brought to you by Jonathan Payne.
Brought to you by Michelin or something.
We don't have a sponsor for this episode, so.
Today it's brought to you by Volkswagen, sort of. I don't know if you all saw the news story, but April Fool's, of course, was yesterday. And Volkswagen has been going through some troubled waters. Let's put it that way. About sometime last week, they came out, the word got out, or they released it on their own, that they were changing their brand name to Voltswagen, as in like electrical volts. And
really,
yeah, some folks suspected it was April Fool's related because it was right there, but it was before, and so the prominent publications, USA Today and Reuters and Washington Post, all reached out, wanted to confirm the rumors and the release, and multiple sources at Volkswagen, higher ups, confirmed that it was not a joke. And so they ran the story, right? All these publications ran the story that the name was changing, and kind of made sense as all the car companies are moving toward that electric vehicles and all that stuff. It turns out it was a joke. And they came out later and let people know that it was a joke. All of this occurred before April Fool's Day. And so it's like, what are you doing? Number one.
Yeah, odd timing.
Yeah.
It was. And other brands have done. IHOP did the big, changing their name a couple years ago to International House of Burgers, I think. So there's been some big ones like that.
I remember that.
But the Volkswagen one in particular, it's kind of the open question, I think, is where's that trade-off between generating some social media buzz and craze versus deceiving your customers in the market and journalists. Are they going to believe the next thing you tell them? It's an interesting tactic that, and Volkswagen's is even more complex because they had the issue with diesel cars back in, I think, 2017, where they patently lied about faking emissions testing and things like that got them in some hot waters. So playing with deceit and things like that as a brand that's gone through some tumultuous guilt.
Just don't.
Yeah. Well, we were
no one
sponsored by them.
What do you guys think, though? I mean, where's that line at? Because and I don't know if you saw any other April Fool's jokes that were actually probably decent.
I don't know who came up with the timeline for this thing, because it just seems very badly thought out. I mean, when you do an April Fool's joke, it's supposed to be lighthearted and easy, and don't take it too seriously. But Yeah, it wasn't even on the date.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's like
Generally,
they
you
were
want to.
testing, like, should we call ourselves this? Do people think that this will be okay? You know, it's like, how do we test the waters? Let's do a
Maybe.
giant focus group of the entire world in the Washington Post and New York Times and see what happens.
Well, now they know. The response was mixed. I mean, it was mostly, especially on the journalist side, they're like, well, why would you waste our time, lie to us, deceive us, all that? Like, we're not going to ask you for a story next time.
Yeah.
But the public was like, you know, that's an easy name change. That makes sense. It kind of does. Maybe they were testing it. I don't know. But I think that was maybe the wrong execution.
Well, we're talking about it, right? Any press is good press.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
They got
In
something out of
Volkswagen's
it.
case, you have to wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, like there's a documentary out there about that whole diesel thing that I watched because I'm a big documentary guy. And I can't remember where I watched it on, what platform it was on, because there's like so many now, you know, it's like cable TV. Like what platform? Netflix, Prime, YouTube. Yeah, the whole diesel thing and the testing and like how they try to deceive people and prove that, it was like nuts. I couldn't believe to the lengths and the extent they were going to like prove that emissions. Like there was one where they brought in a Ford F-150 or 250, and then they brought in one of their diesel cars, and then they would literally hook up a hose to the tailpipe, and then run it into a room where there was a dude sitting in there. And I'm like, why do you need to do this as a test? Because most people do this for suicide. Like you don't do this. Like, I don't understand. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking the whole time that's a joke. I was like, I'm watching a parody. This is like by The Onion or something. I know it. You know, no, it wasn't. It was dead serious. I was like, okay.
They literally programmed their computers, right, to deceive the emissions test.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it goes to show you that, I mean, there's an argument to any PR is good PR, better than people not hearing your name, I guess, but it brings up a bad story, right? You know, a bad time.
Yeah.
And realistically, I mean, maybe 10 years ago, the consumer market didn't really care, but I think now people really do. They make, you know, it's not their singular decision maker, but they make a conscious focus to figure out which companies are destroying the earth versus not.
Yeah. In that case, I would say my answer for all that is that, look, if you're crazy PR move that like they did brings up a bad story of a huge controversy that costs lives, millions of dollars. No, don't. Like, just don't. If it caused such a stink, people are going to remember the stink because they're going to think about that story and go like, ha ha ha. But remember when they did?
We're doing it right.
And I'm not a PR guy, but it seems like somebody wearing a suit over there should have said, you know, let's give this some time. Let's give the dust some time to settle before we start getting too lighthearted about anything about our brand, because we need people to take us seriously and to build up credibility. It's like nobody seems to be. It doesn't seem like that the folks at Volkswagen are able to think more than a day or two ahead of time or something. I don't know.
That's a big organization, so you never know. It may not have come from up top. Like folks in Germany may be like, "You did what?"
Yeah, I don't know. They asked. I know there was a specific call out of a U.S. Higher up. I mean, he wasn't small time who came out and confirmed that it was not a joke.
Somebody had to take the fall.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the strategy. They had to get rid of somebody higher up. Didn't know how to do it. Came up with this bad PR campaign and pinned it to him and said, "Sorry."
You never know.
You're going out on this one.
I mean, we saw how, you know, if you watch the Steve Jobs movie, there was the board wanted, you know, they wanted what they wanted. So you never know.
Yeah. The Steve Jobs movie that I like, though, is one with Kate Winslet, because I'll watch anything with Kate Winslet. She's a phenomenal actress. Anyways, that's aside. Oh, hey, look, I got like exciting things happening outside my house today. I don't know if y'all heard that. Usually that's John, because, you know, it's like an ambulance or wee-woo going by outside his window. But no, for me, I get like a delivery guy just honking his horn for something. Anyway, it's not my fault. Yeah, yeah. We do everything really straight laced here, Jordan. Audio's professional, lighting, all of it. It's awesome, man. You know, you just
have to open the package on video if a delivery comes. Is that not a rule?
Oh, it's a rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it arrives during the podcast, you got to open it for everybody.
Yeah. Now we got an unpackaging video. Like, oh, what did you order? Well, look at that. It's some Ajax. Because that's what I ordered. It's good stuff, man. Cuts the grease. All right. Anyways, thank you, John, for the brand bit. Mitch, you got anything for the nerd news? What's going on?
A couple of little things. And the first one I'm mentioning purely because it's near and dear to my heart, and I think it's important, so everybody else should too. But Godzilla versus Kong opened yesterday. It's getting a whopping 79% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the audience score is 95%. So I could not be more excited to see these two giant monsters from my childhood fighting on the screen again. It gives me goosebumps to even think about it. And I've seen all the other ones too. So, I'm a hopeless case when it comes to that sort of thing. It's doing pretty well. It's getting decent reviews. It sounds like when you read the culmination of the reviews from like Hollywood Reporter and Variety, they all pretty much, the consensus is, if you want to see a giant monster movie with giant monsters fighting each other, this is how you do it. So I'm very, very excited, and I think everyone else should be too. Go to the theater, spend a little extra money this weekend, and see this movie. So they'll make more of them. The other thing is a little piece of news I picked up from IGN.com. This will make you a little sad, Jason. Apparently, DC has canceled the New Gods and Aquaman spinoff movie, The Trench. Those have been canceled and put on the back burner for the time being.
I didn't even know they were going to have that. So disappointment averted.
It's supposed to be sad.
I mean,
no, he's sad. He's sad, dang it.
I'll fake it because they suck when they start to roll out in announcements like, hey, DC's going to do a thing. Really? You are? That's kind of how I get them. It's like Marvel. I mean, brah. Like, you can't miss Marvel advertisements, but DC... Anyways, continue. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. This comes out the week after that they had announced that Pierce Brosnan was going to appear as Dr. Fate in the upcoming Dwayne Johnson vehicle, Black Adam, which it's a character nobody outside of the hardcore DC Comics fans knows who the heck that is. So, but that's a pretty big name to bring in. But at any rate,
he saves franchises, right? You got to help Fast and the Furious out. They brought him in. They're like, oh, we need some more life in that. Let's bring in Dwayne Johnson. And then later on, they were like, we need Jason Statham. Let's bring him in. He'll save it. He tried to help G.I. Joe. Y'all remember G.I. Joe, like the second movie? Oof. Yeah. See, Jordan, you didn't miss anything, man. It was bad. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did not save that franchise.
Can't save them all.
Which is really sad because I know a ton of guys that grew up in that G.I. Joe era in the mid and late 80s watching that cartoon. So it's sad to see such a robust property like that just can't seem to get off the ground.
Yeah, I wish DC was more of a powerhouse, but honestly, it comes down to like, since we do talk about the advertising and the nerd culture and everything being played with the podcast, like honestly, man, I'm inundated with Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff everywhere, and DC is just, it's quiet. It's just like, you kind of wonder, and it's not that I don't click on or try to purposely go and look and view their stuff online or on YouTube or anything, because I do, because I am a fan at heart. But it's like, they've just got whoever Marvel is working with, and obviously we know they're powered by the mouse. It just, they do so much better work with ads and who they partner with, like with Falcon Winter Soldier partnering with Sony and PlayStation, and because PlayStation's got their PlayStation 5 now, so I mean, they just, I don't know what they're doing over at DC. It's like, let's advertise with Cheerios. I mean, that's just not going to work anymore, guys. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, we've kind of discussed. Be glad to. We've talked about it kind of ad nauseum. Kind of that Marvel is an example. For any brand, they're a perfect example of how you roll out product, how you promote product, how you keep your customers happy, how you innovate. They check all the boxes in that regard. Then you look at Warner Brothers / DC, and it's like almost how not to do things. Nothing seems choreographed. Nothing seems to have a long range plan to basically meet a customer need, fulfill a customer desire, and then continue and create an appetite and then continually fill it.
So this podcast will never be sponsored by now Volkswagen and DC and Marvel. We've just like, that's kind of
what
how we
do. You know, we did that with Microsoft and everybody else.
Well, I mean, we're like doctors, right? I mean, I've always equated us advertising folks as we're like doctors. We look at brands, and generally, it's you're diagnosing either what's making it sick or how it could be healthier. That's what we do, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, you got to deliver the bad news sometimes.
Yeah, you do. And, you know, we understand too, like everybody's budget's different. Like, well, I don't have Marvel DC budget money, you know, but it's kind of like when you look at like Warner Brothers, which I think they're owned by AT&T now, that definitely happened. You're kind of like, why isn't the competition more like, I don't know, on the same level at least? I don't know. It's definitely something that I know we're going to get into, like what DC's done in the past, because we are going to talk in the next episode is our 1 year episode. Sorry, Jordan, you made it by that much.
At least I'm not going to shut it down before you get to a year. I'll find solace in that.
But I mean, we're going to talk about the new 52 in the next episode, kind of what they did years ago with their comics, and that, in my opinion, how it's rebrand. That's a big thing. No trunks. You know, everybody lost their like, where's Superman's underwear on the outside? Like, nobody does that, guys. It's okay. Move on. That was a thing, man. It was major, like lots of news art. Anyways, that's the next episode. But for this episode, yes, it's about our guest. So, Mitch, thank you for the nerd news. I'll pretend to cry and weep about that. But I have been seeing a lot of news about Kong and, the Godzilla movie. Yeah, I'm glad that franchise, I hope, continues to move forward, because I think right now everybody kind of needs to see some stupid. But anyways, Jordan, I want to give you a time now to kind of introduce yourself, talk about GLI, talk about whatever you have as a passion, and floor's yours.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, everybody. The segue from Superman's underwear to me was throwing me a curveball. I like that. Yeah, so I'll see if I can come full circle with this. So we all got connected via LinkedIn. I try to maintain a pretty strong presence there. It's a great place to network, a great place to get your brand out there, get people to know you. Social selling is the new way of finding customers, creating relationships with them, ultimately doing business in the long run. So I'm happy to have met you all there and happy to take it to the podcast form here. Maybe we'll do it in person at some point. I think we're getting there. I think this is a step in that direction. But a little about me. So I work at Greater Louisville, Inc. We are the Metro Chamber of Commerce here in Louisville, Kentucky. So right now I'm at 6th and Main downtown, where our office is. We cover 10 counties in Kentucky and 5 in Indiana. So it's a bi-state chamber. We've got those 15 counties. We've got about 1,700 or so investors, which is our term for our members. So we do anything from your normal Chamber of Commerce events, which are networking focused, help you get your name out there, get people to know about your business, help you form relationships. That's the lane that I swim in the most. To economic development, people come into town and want to talk about, finding places to put their building, or if they're expanding and want to find a new place, we can help with that. Workforce development. So when NerdBrand gets that huge contract with, was it Marvel or DC?
We want Marvel.
Marvel. Okay. So when you guys get the Marvel business, we can help you hire. Let's see, policy. So we advocate for business-friendly legislation on behalf of the community. So we take input from those 1,700 investors on what's good for their business, what's bad for their business. And then we craft our policy around that, and we throw our weight behind that. And then is there one that I'm missing? No, I think I covered everything. So that's a high level overview of what we do. We've been around for, I think 30 plus years or so. So I'm just really fortunate to be able to work here. In my day-to-day, I manage about 500 of our investors. So I have conversations with them. I was on a call just before this. It was a new pizza place in town. They're trying to get their bearings, figure out where they can put some ad spend behind and how they can get in front of the community. So I basically play matchmaker between business A and business B all day long. It's a fun job. It's exciting. Every day's different. And it led me here today. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. When I first, I think you and John were the first ones to connect. LinkedIn has been, for me, it's been my home for the last 2 years. As far as like really putting energy and effort and trying to understand it as a platform, trying to utilize it for professional growth, for the business. John actually has been doing it a lot longer. John in our organization, if it's social media, you want to talk to him. He's the guy, and he knows a lot of other platforms as well. So, he connected with you and was like, "Go talk, George. You need to see this guy." And so I was like, that's when I got into the picture, and then
no higher compliment can be paid.
Yeah. And that's when we got into where we are now today, talking about what you do, having you on the show, and Superman not having underpants on the outside anymore.
We'll get back to that.
Yeah, I believe it. See, that's the thing about our podcast. Like this is the fun thing that NerdBrand gets to do. Yeah, it's a marketing tool. Believe it or not, as crazy and as silly as it seems. But that's the point. I mean, we're not really like necessarily putting on a show. We really are this way. You put this much caffeine in me, this is what happens, which is why I don't do it very much, because I'm going to pay for this later. But I mean, this is who we are. I mean, we really enjoy it. We love connecting with people like you, because, you kind of have the mindset and you kind of understand it. You're like, yeah, it's a little different, but look, they obviously are having fun, especially, with what we do. You're supposed to. I mean, we get to do things that other people in business just don't get to do. We get to create something from nothing quite often. We don't really do a lot of off the shelf stuff, because we've seen that doesn't work. So, we understand that we're in a very particular blessed position, if you will. But I was really happy to kind of have you, be that kind of a guy that could come on the show as well, because you are one of our people.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I get to kind of be myself in this role. Social selling is like that. If you come across as not genuine, or you really don't have a voice, or people can't figure out exactly who you are, what you're selling, or what your brand is, or what your company is, you're going to have a hard time finding success. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And for people to get to that third one, they got to get to know you. And it's a great way to do that. I think the podcast that you all are doing here is an awesome way to do that, because, there's variety out there. People don't have to come to GLI and use our services. They don't have to use NerdBrand, and you've got plenty of competition out here. But doing stuff like this and let people know who you are and being genuine about it is the best route to go.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Go ahead, John.
No, you're good. You go.
Oh, okay. I mean, one of the things we preach, Jordan, is the value of authenticity, because that's what people want. Real experiences today. They want to deal with companies and products and brands that aren't just, they're not just putting up a facade. They want things that are real. And living in the internet age we live in, with social media, the web, what have you, if you're not real, people will find out very, very quickly in any number of ways, because people have the immediacy of communication now, that if they've had a bad experience or an inauthentic experience, they're going to get online, they're going to get on their smartphone, and they're going to tell everybody. More often than not, they're going to tell people about a bad experience and a good experience, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, people desire authentic experiences. They want to deal with what's real. And the danger of doing otherwise is, I mean, it's immeasurable how the damage you can do if you're not real with people.
Mm-hmm. I think the value really, you look at LinkedIn, you look at any social platform and business in general, there's an incredible amount of value in being known as that guy or that company that can connect people, right? You've said, your job is to play matchmaker. At the end of the day, that's how you deliver value. That's what's going to get somebody to join GLI. It's is that kind of altruistic nature of connecting person A to person B, and they can help each other, but they remember that you were the guy who put them in the same room, right? And there's, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Lewis Howes. He's a decade-long veteran of the LinkedIn world, and he's a pretty prominent speaker. That's one of the things he said years ago. He started doing LinkedIn seminars, and he found that at first he went into the room and it was like, I'm going to teach, I'm going to educate these people from stage to, audience. And he found out that really where his value was, what people cared about the most was how he could connect, A and B and get them together. And then that's the value. So I think that, social media does that in general. I think Twitter and LinkedIn from a professional standpoint tend to do that the absolute best.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the approach that I take too on LinkedIn, is trying to, it's networking. It's genuine. If you're going to use it genuinely for networking, and there's room for education and inspiration and all that. But it really is about trying to figure out who knows who and how they can help each other, not how they can help you necessarily.
Yeah. I know somebody else that did a seminar recently about LinkedIn. This is where I put the guest on the spot.
Hey, yeah. Yeah, I could talk about that for a second if you want me to.
Yeah, please.
So I keep having this conversation over and over, or I had been. So I work with a lot of business development people. I've talked to anybody all day long, try to help them however I can. And we kept coming back to LinkedIn. Obviously 2020, shaking hands, just like it's a faux pas. You couldn't do it. So how do you go about meeting people and increasing your network and staying top of mind when you're at home in your PJs? And kind of beauty is that you can do it at home in your pajamas, right? We all did it, whether we'll admit it or not. But I kept having this conversation. Yeah, I do too. I promise. So I kept having this conversation about hey, this platform I use. It's great. I can't say enough good things about it. It really drives my business. And here's how I go about you doing what I do. So I wrote this kind of a chunky email, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3. And then I would just keep sending this out to people instead of, I would copy and paste it instead of, telling them the same thing every time. It's the same process. So then finally, I was having a conversation with Dave Etkin at the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, which is also housed in our office. A lot of the days, it was just me and him here. So we had a lot of time to, collide and talk about things, which is one of the reasons why I think people are going to be going back to the office, regardless of what they think now. You miss that collision and that opportunity for spontaneous collaboration. So we talked about doing a seminar for the SBDC, and it was just 3 easy tips for using the platform daily. It doesn't take a long time. Here's what you do and here's why. And I just try to make it really simple. Like LinkedIn, there's kind of a learning curve if you're not really well-versed in it. I mean, I didn't even get on the topic of LinkedIn. I can't even think of the premium version name, ProFinder or whatever it is. I don't use it.
Yeah.
It's really steep learning curve to learn how to use that. And I think it's intimidating for a lot of people. So I just try to make it here's how you meet people. It's basically just virtual networking. I mean, if you're a person who's walked into a networking room before and exchanged business cards and met people that you had not met before in the hopes of eventually doing business with them or connecting them or exchanging some sort of value, which is what business is, then you can do it online too. It just takes a little bit of a different mindset. But once you get in the right mindset and you kind of understand that, then it's super easy and it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've tried the paid versions of LinkedIn. I've used the sales one because everybody else.
Sales Navigator. That's what I was failing to remember right there.
Yeah, there's that one. There's a couple of others, and they range anywhere from $65 a month to $80-$90 a month, and I'm just I don't, there could be. I think being a part of LinkedIn and having the gold LinkedIn stamp means nothing to me, really. Because I'm dealing with the person. I'm not dealing with your credentials.
Yeah.
So, it's sort of it's great that you're on such and such board. It's great that you're doing this or that, but it's really are we going to be able to have synergy? And I hate to use the word synergy because I hate marketing terminology, but it's true. There's chemistry, if you will. that you want to have with people in order to be able to work with them. And because you're going to be able to, when things get crunch time or things get abrasive, you're able to still have the grease that's necessary in order to keep moving forward and not grind to a halt and stop because you're just incompatible. And I believe that's in business as much as it is in personal relationships. So when you're out there on LinkedIn, like I look at what you're posting. I even go to other social networks and see what you're posting to see if there's inconsistencies. I may be pulling the curtain back too far here. So John, you can I got Slack open. So if you just want to just let me know.
There's nothing wrong with that. You got to prospect. You got to figure out who you're talking to and figure out, and it's not to be manipulative or anything. It's like you said, it's to figure out who's compatible with you. Because there's no point in, you don't want to waste anybody's time. And you don't want your time wasted. So you gotta do your homework before you try to reach out or try to figure out again who they're looking for. You got to figure out what they want out of this way before you try to focus on what you're trying to get out of it. And that's the case with marketing. That's the case with anything. Like you said, it's personal business. It doesn't matter. Yeah. If you take the approach that you're the sole focus all the time, you're probably not going to, ultimately get what you want.
Yeah. Can you talk about the bullet points in your process, Jordan, and just say like 1 is this, 2 is this, or is that secret sauce that has
no,
you have to go to the seminar?
I've only sent that template email to about 100 people. So I think the secret's out if there was ever any secret to begin with. Yeah. So I'll go over that if you want me to. It's exactly how this conversation happened here. Like rewind. And it was through the implementation of these steps that got us on each other's radar, got us talking, and eventually led to this, which is what you want to happen on a social network, right? So, so step 1 is basically post once a day. It's right.
It's hard to keep up though. You know that as well as anybody, but you do a good job.
It can be. So I'm very privileged from my standpoint in my industry that like any sort of business news or something Louisville centric is great to post for me. So there's a little bit more to it than that. So, but I just try to make it simple, right? Post once a day, preferably in the morning. Engagement's highest in the morning. People aren't cruising LinkedIn at all hours of the day. It's usually like a while you're drinking your coffee type thing for most people, I think. A little bit of a rare exception that I have it open all day. So I'm not sure exactly how everybody uses it, but engagement's highest in the morning. And if you know just to post once, that takes the mental anguish out of like, oh gosh, I'm new to this. What do I do? How am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? Like once a day is easy. And you want to put some content out there that you want to obviously tie back to you. So, NerdBrand, you all do a great job. I'm really a big fan of your all's content. It's engaging. It's fun. It lets people know what you find interesting. You all actually do a really, really good job of that. So a little bit more intricacies of what to post, but yeah, post once a day. And then number 2, you're going to engage with people who engage with you. Reach out and connect with them. So what good is it if you post all this content and people start seeing it and start engaging with it or start commenting on it if you don't then harness that data and leverage that to start having some conversations? So after I post, I always look at my engagement the next day. It's sort of like a domino effect. You post that morning and then the next day you've got notifications of people that have engaged with your stuff. They've liked it, they've commented on it, what have you. So if there's a second degree connection of mine that, we're not directly connected, but maybe they were connected to Jonathan and they saw it because he liked it or whatever, then I'll look at that person, I'll vet them to whatever extent I feel like I need to. Good rule of thumb, like, is this a person you talk to at a networking event? If not, then probably not worth your time to connect with them. Save everybody some time. But anyway, I look at that engagement, and if I'm not connected to them, I reach out and connect. So I increase my network. They've seen my face. They've seen the content. They know who I am, at least a little bit, because they like the post. So posting once per day, connect with the people who engage with your stuff. If it's early on in this process for you and you don't get a lot of second degree connections, commenting or liking your stuff, reach out to the people that are your first degree connections and start conversations with them. They just saw your face. They just saw your name. They liked something you posted. If there's a reason to have a conversation, open it up. So that leads to step 3, just start conversations with people. So I've got ongoing conversations on it. We talk on there, but really the succession is post once a day, engage with people who are second degree connections. And then once they connect with you, if they do, it's a kind of a funnel, then it opens up a conversation and you just start talking to them. It's super easy.
Right.
You can see what they do for a living. You can, it's the insight you can glean from LinkedIn is just, think about back in the day when you had to cold call people out of a phone book. You don't know anything about this person whatsoever besides their first and last name. Now, before we even start the conversation, if they connect with us, you can see where they went to school, who they're connected to, what their background is, what their interests are, whatever they want to share with you on LinkedIn, you can find that out. So strategy, open up the conversation. Hey, how are you? I try to be intentional with it and not talk about the weather or, we're not on there to talk about our cats and the funny things that they do. It's a business site, but that's it. That's really it. That's 1, 2, 3. And I go into more detail on that and the why so that it really sticks and changes your perception of why to do these things, because, it sounds so deceptively simple that people might think, well, I don't know if that's really going to make a difference for me or do anything.
Yeah. It's
cumulative effect it's real.
Yeah, it's like simply profound, but profoundly simple. And that's really all it is. It's like there's not this secret sauce that even we have. Like, thank you for the compliment. I give a lot of credit to these guys too in helping with developing content for our platforms. And John understands them intimately very well. And so a lot of our success, I do have to give him thank you for that and praise.
Yeah.
It's a team effort, and we're very intentional about it. We encourage each other. If we see each other slacking, not messaging, but losing traction and not posting, which I have not done a good job the past couple of weeks, just been busy. But if we see each other kind of slacking, or we feel like there's a lull in good content, we kind of call each other out and say, hey, I need you guys to get active, or vice versa.
I missed this morning. My bad. I was supposed to say. I was going to make it. I've got like clips of the last podcast episode, which, by the way, if you want to go to and listen, it's nerdbrandagency.com/podcast. There.
Shameless plug.
Yes, exactly. iTunes, Google, we're everywhere. You find it. It's cool.
I think Jonathan kind of passive aggressively called me out there because I haven't posted anything in a while.
I called myself out. I have not.
I deserve it.
I've been pretty consistent the last few months, but yeah, the last 2 weeks have been super busy. But I think that's one of the hurdles that holds people up big time. Not only do they have trouble keeping up and finding good content, especially if it's in a more obscure industry than a broad, metro areas economic, activity. But even more so than that, if they do have stuff, was there ever a time, Jordan, that at the beginning where you were posting good content, the type of content you're posting now, you're getting real good engagement now? Was there a time at the beginning where you posted stuff and it was just like a vacuum, isolation? I think that's what gets people, like, they get anxious or they get self-conscious that what they're posting is not good.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was thinking about this earlier in the conversation. I can't remember exactly why. Maybe someone can help remind me of what the topic was, but before, like when I started honing this process was when it wasn't with what I do now. It just happens to complement my job now very well. So I was a financial advisor for about 5 years, from 2013 to 2018 or so. And I was 25 at the time that I started, didn't know anything, brand new. There's really not a steeper hill to climb than trying to build a business as a 25-year-old financial advisor, brand new. So LinkedIn was my platform to get people to know, like, and trust me again and build my network. Literally the only other options were networking, cold calling, and door knocking, which I tried all of those things. LinkedIn was the most fun. But there's a lot of regulation around the financial services industry, as there should be. And the content that I was allowed to put out, it was just terrible. It was awful. It was all like scrubbed and sort of just bad. Got
lifeless.
Zero engagement. What's that?
Lifeless.
Yeah, totally lifeless. I got zero engagement with all that, and the process didn't really work then. And I'm so happy that I can post more interesting stuff now. But every now and then, I'll put something out there. I try to do just once a day in the morning because I know engagement is just the best and I just don't mess with anything else. Every now and then I'll throw something out there, but for whatever reason, it'll just flop like a dead fish, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see when that happens because sometimes it'll be like 8:05 and I'm like, oh gosh, I've been busy this morning. I've got to post something. I'll just go grab it and throw it up there and it'll get like 10,000 views. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, this is my plan. I really, really want to get a lot of eyeballs on this. It's very carefully crafted, and I throw it out there, and it's just like 7 people see it, and I'm just like, what happened?
Yeah. The algorithms, it's a weird animal still. I still haven't quite figured it out. And then you've got the whole, I know we've got on the topics list to talk about different types of posts and how they perform. You've got the pure text motivational stuff that we're all familiar with. What some people call broetry, text.
Broetry.
That performs super well, and everybody copy and paste it across their channel, their profile because they want the same engagement, and it doesn't work. And then you've got you got video and photos and things like that. Have you seen a trend on your end of what type of content performs the best?
Yeah, so I've found that sometimes when you do the all text posts, and I play around with this too, just to see what works and what doesn't. And while it can be frustrating sometimes when stuff flops, it is very interesting to see how changing it up makes a difference. So the post that I put this morning was for a downtown revitalization campaign that we just launched along with Louisville Tourism, Louisville Downtown Partnership, Live in Lou and Louisville Forward, called Lou Needs You. And initially I put the link in the post, which shows the preview, and then you can back the link and it stays there. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put the logo of Lou Needs You in there, have the rest of it be text, and then put the link in the comments, because sometimes if you just, for some reason, if you put a link in there with some text, it's like a coin toss.
Right.
Once I shared a Business First article about Muscle and Burger Bar opening back up, it was just a straight link. It had the preview window on there and everything, and just said, come have a burger with me. Like 100 people commented on that. Super caught me off guard. But the one this morning with just the text and the picture got pretty good engagement on that. Like about 1,600 views so far since like 8 o'clock this morning. But stuff that doesn't work, if you don't have a graphic image, a lot of times it gets overlooked unless you have like a really grabby first line that gets people to click the ellipses to read the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, LinkedIn will gives you a few lines before it starts to condense it because to save space, I guess. But
yeah.
Interesting to see all that.
It's weird. I've not quite figured it out, but I have. I'll post something as a text post, and I'll see that like you were talking about, the ellipses, the line break or the section break happens at the place that I don't want it to happen at. And so I'll, go back and edit the post to try to get the little teaser or get a continued sentence before the ellipses, trying to encourage people to expand it. I don't know. Recently, I think you all saw the Michael Jordan Amazon post about how long it took them to get, get traction, win a championship, become a known brand, whatever it might be. That's one of the more successful ones recently. And that was a pure text post. But then, I think Jordan, you saw some of the logo comparisons, the before and afters, that also did really well. So it's like, I don't know. I can't figure it out myself. I know.
I think it's variety. I think it's a signal. I think the variety of not just when you post, what you post is what sends messages to the algorithm that it's not a bot and it's not an automated service. I think that's it, because social media is looking for real interactions. It's looking for real people to be posting. The age of running Hootsuite and any other platform and trying to do posting is done. Gaming systems are done. Like, I'm not talking about PS5. So, you're trying to game the system. You're not going to get in there. When I first started out years ago in web, because, I don't like talking about it because people ask us, like, how much do we charge for SEO? And I'm like, SEO is not a thing I can just put on the table and go like, this much.
It's not a button you pay us to push.
Yeah. It's just a myriad of things. It's a monster, right? But years ago when I started with it with Google, I remember people buying links. They were buying links like crazy. Like, I'm going to buy all these links. I get all these backlinks. Yeah. And then they started doing link wheeling, where you've got your website, but then you got all these other faux websites with articles that you're writing about yourself to go back to your website. And it's link wheel. And it's like, and people were just kept trying these tactics. And it's just like, guys, it's just about the content. I mean, it's not just saying that it's valuable content. Like, there's a lot of things that we could talk about that everybody else is talking about. What is unique? John always says, what's the differentiator? And so it's like, that's what you got to figure out how to offer, I believe, and then share that. Let's share that in different ways and at different times. Like you said, the morning is really great. I've done text posts. I've done image posts. I've done video. I've done links. I've done all of them, and I've watched. And you guys are right. There really isn't a way to nail down which one is preferred. And then that's when I was like the little, like Batman, I was like, this thing is watching for frequency and what I'm doing to make sure that I'm not going and pushing some schedule button somewhere. And that's what I think is happening.
Kind of testing that right now. I use Hootsuite 50% of the time, and other times it'll be a spontaneous post. And I haven't sat down to look at the difference, but I'm going to. I want to see if that, because there were rumors back in the day, like when Buffer and Hootsuite and Sprout and all those were kind of coming on the scene, and social media management was becoming a thing back in the 2014, 2015, era of social. And there were rumors that Facebook did suppress things that were scheduled by third-party applications. I think the consensus came out after they declined, and so did the social management tools. But I don't know, who knows what happened behind the scenes, but there was some research done that seemed to indicate that it didn't happen back then. But I think things have changed, like you, Jason. I think they don't care too much for the Hootsuites and the Buffers and even the HubSpots and all those social scheduling tools. Because to your point, like you said, if they're trying to compete with the TikToks and the Instagram Reels and all that stuff that you can't schedule a TikTok.
Yeah,
good point.
Well, Facebook had a scheduling tool for a while. I don't know if it's still there or not, because I gave up on it because Facebook's tools, analytics, and everything, including their ad platform, I just look at it and I go like, yeah, you need a PhD to figure this out. But I know they had one for a while, and I think
they've got a nice one, man. It's called Creator Studio, I think, and you go on the back end of your company page or whatever, and you can schedule both Facebook and Instagram now, and schedule the caption and everything on Instagram through their tools. So they've kind of taken it up a notch, and probably for that reason have probably not penalized, but not given preference to the third-party tools that kind of compete with that.
Yeah, well, I bring all that up because LinkedIn is when I got into LinkedIn, it was about 170 million to 300 million users. Now we got like 770 something plus million on there now. So it's exploded in user. And now it's owned by Microsoft. For those that didn't know, Microsoft bought it. They own it. And that's where all the improvements, I think, keep coming from. So at some point, do you guys think that Microsoft's going to go like, okay, here is this post tool or schedule tool or whatever? Because I know they already have analytics, but I don't know how great that is. I've seen it.
Yeah. The analytics for me, at least on the company pages, have improved definitely over the last 2 years. I don't know that the profile analytics have changed much or what's available in the pro version. I know I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we were talking about Sales Navigator and their other premium options. I feel like they're starting to hide more search results. Like if you try to add filters for certain companies or location or things like that, you might get like the first 3 or 4 in a search result, but the rest are blurred out, and it's like upgrade. So I think that's the way it's going, unfortunately, which to me is doing a little bit of a disservice to the community.
I hadn't thought about this until it just popped into my head. So I tried out the LinkedIn. Again, the name of the premium version is escaping me. What's it called again?
Sales Navigator.
Sales Navigator. Gosh, why cannot think of that? I trialed this out and was like, look, let's see if it gets its hooks in me. If it does, we'll see if we can get the juice worth the squeeze. And if not, fine. We tried it. It didn't. But I think that maybe the overarching plan with Microsoft and LinkedIn is to become some sort of like a quasi Salesforce competitor, because when you look at the Sales Navigator side of it, it's basically like a huge giant CRM. There's really, if you pay for that and really use it to the full extent of the capabilities, there's really no reason for you to have that and a separate CRM, because it houses all the information that you need in it. I'm not sure if it cross talks with other things. It probably does. Again, I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it outside the free trial, but I would say maybe their game plan is something along those lines where, you get the free networking with the free version. I think they're probably going to be focusing on getting people jobs, sort of like another job recruiting site. Recruiters use the platform very heavily, but that's the sales navigator part. But yeah, that hadn't really occurred to me until just now that maybe they're trying to think of it in that way. What do you all think?
I think you're right, because there is a $10 billion acquisition coming for Discord, which is the competitor to Slack, which is like an instant messenger, but it's got a full API. I mean, there's tons of things you can do with Slack. It's more than just a messenger. We use it. We use Slack very well. We have channels that we put in to have specific, for example, conversations about projects we're working on. The podcast has its own channel, so we kind of keep things segmented in a way to keep track of just what's going on, who said what. It ties to our project management software, which we use ClickUp, which, we're pretty open about what we use because they're good platforms. We believe in them. It wouldn't be far of a stretch to think that Discord and LinkedIn and all of these things are going to get, rolled up into some sort of bundle, and that's what you're going to end up getting for the value.
Yeah. Salesforce bought Slack, right? Less than 6 months ago. So that happened. And,
it's heating up. It's like, it's getting hotter. It's like you can feel it. The war's coming, right?
Hey, I'm here for it. I love the competition as long as we don't get any monopolies out of it and they don't just stomp out some innovation or, competition along the way. But I was super psyched whenever Microsoft bought LinkedIn. It can get a little frustrating sometimes because I feel like they're constantly tweaking it. This was more so when I was using the Sales Navigator part, because they had some features that were like literally advertised to me when I signed up for the trial. And then I get to the other side and I was like, this is not working the way they said it was going to. So I reached out to the contact support and they're like, yeah, we're sunsetting that feature. And I'm just like, you probably should update your sales material here because it's
Well, there's a lovely segue that just happened randomly about sales material. Because that's something that we're actually trying to push right now and help people with. I mean, we just did an episode where it talked about like how I've gone into a room before to, present. And I know John's got a presentation coming up as well. And it's like the worst nightmare you want to have is all the things inconsistent, like your experience on the back end of that thing. That's inconsistency right there. That's kind of, if you're owner of that platform, if you're trying to pitch that, sell that, whatever it is, oh boy, like,
it wasn't a great look for the super premium expensive version of the software.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we call, I think our, the promotion we're running now is like, it's nerdbrandagency.com/collateral. Spell check that one. I probably should have come up with a simpler URL. That's my fault. So, but it's there, and we provide.
The double letters get me every time, right?
Yeah. It's like Mississippi. How many I's and S's and P's? Always two.
When there's two sets of double letters or the possibility for two sets of double letters, it's just like my brain shuts off. It doesn't work.
Right. It's like how many S's, I's, and P's? It's always two until you get to the end. Well, it's like that's when your brain broke. You're like, well, yeah, but when you said until.
Yeah, kind of thinking about the Microsoft thing too. You mentioned ProFinder, Jordan, I think earlier, and I think that's, to me, that's been a complete flop. No offense to Microsoft or LinkedIn, but I have responded to probably 80 of those, and not a single person has ever said anything back. And I don't think it's me. It might be, but I don't think so.
I remember signing up for that, and the reason that came to my mind is because I literally got an email from them saying they were changing it the other day, and I was like, oh, I forgot about this. But when I was an advisor, I put myself out, on that come to me as a pro, however they pitched it, and the leads that I got were no good whatsoever.
I mean, we get a few, and they look promising on the surface, but it just, but to the point, I think that was, and I'm sure they'll try another iteration. That's trying to compete with the Upworks and freelancer.com and places like that. So they're definitely trying to build an ecosystem. And I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes, because I'm not the only one that's commented. I think lately they've had a lot of kind of buggy error issues just on basic functionality of the platform.
Yeah, I signed up for it, and I had a long history of just being a web developer and in web. And I think I shared one of the requests that came in. I shared it with John and Mitch was giggling because it's like, this is for graphic design. Why is this coming up on Jason's? It's like, yeah,
no offense.
there's something wrong with Profiler.
I just don't know where they go. You know, I submit a proposal or whatever through the little text function, and literally have never gotten a response. And I found that odd. I'm like, where do these go? Do they just not? I mean, because even I'll look up the people
on Tinder have the same problem.
That's kind of what it feels like, honestly. It's like
you got to tweak your opening line, man.
I'm out of that game. I'm done with that, fortunately.
That's on the next one.
Yeah, catchphrases and lines that get people's attention. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually on topic, because I mean, if you look at LinkedIn and you start looking at search results in Google, if your profile is open for the search engines, I mean, that line that you put in there, your name, what you're about, that's going to get like, it's got to be strategic. The title, even, Mitch and myself and John, we've all changed ours up to kind of see what would happen, because it's kind of fun to do that. And the results and the type of people and connections that LinkedIn refers you even can change up a lot. So, I mean,
I think there's an interesting thing you do, Jason, that I've not heard anywhere else. It sounds logical and true, and I'm sure you've seen effects from it, but the types of people you connect with are who LinkedIn suggests you, right? So you're kind of training the platform. Mm-hmm. If you're connecting, I keep getting stuff from overseas. I keep getting connection requests from overseas, and it's people that I'm not going to do business with. It's like virtual assistant and just kind of spammy stuff. And I think it's because I accepted a handful of those a long time ago. Yep. And now the platform wants me to connect with those people. So I know you've gone through, and it's something that people should consider. Clean up your connections, be mindful of who you're connecting with and who you're accepting, because that's just like everything else. It's an algorithm. It's suggesting connections to you and to those people to based on your activity. So yeah, that's an interesting one.
I'm getting ready to hit my spring cleaning. I do it once. I used to do it once a quarter, but now I do it like once a year. And it's funny you brought that up, because I mean, that's on my task list this month actually, is to go through my LinkedIn, look at all my connections,
fun,
and then look through the ones that have been basically just that, or not a fit for what we're looking for in our target market. And I'm delete. That's why the connections that I have is like a roller coaster. If you try to look at my profile and snoop, you're like, why does he have like only 400? Yet a week ago he had 1,000. It's like, I'm cleaning out the things I don't want, because the algorithm is trying to say like, oh, maybe you want that. And I had to tell a lot of people, like, we're friends, it's okay, but I disconnected with you from LinkedIn. Don't take it personal. It's not Facebook. I had to have those. Right. I had to have those conversations, because people were like, well, what the heck, man? Why did you do that? And I'm like, because there's no business that you and I can refer to each other. There's nothing I can do for you. And I don't want you like getting from my side things that are not beneficial, and vice versa. It's nothing personal. We can chat on Facebook.
No, and that's a great point. And I think probably a lot of people who maybe have been on LinkedIn for a long time that don't necessarily get the type of content that maybe they think they should be getting, or what they want. Mm-hmm. You've got to be very strategic about these things. You really have to think about the fact, like you said, LinkedIn is not a business Facebook. It's not. I'm stunned how many people still kind of treat it that way. And that's not a knock on any of these people. I mean, I'm sure they're great people. They're
not here. Very, okay.
No, it's just, but it's like, this isn't the place. And right. it still surprises me how many people still on LinkedIn still kind of treat it like just like Facebook, only we're all wearing ties.
Yeah.
It's nuanced. I think there's a learning curve to learning the balance. And I will say whatever tweaks LinkedIn keeps implementing, I do love that it is, at least from my standpoint, I don't spend a lot of time cruising my feed, because I just all the engagement. I just engage directly with that. But I'm happy with the stuff that I see, and that it's not too, if the platform ever goes south to like a dumpster fire that Facebook is, at least my opinion.
Yeah,
just be totally crushed, because it's just, I'm not a big social networker or social media person whatsoever, but this platform is just, it's so great, especially for people in our business.
Yeah. No, man, it's great having you on. I hope everybody gets some value out of this. If you're out there listening to this, yes, look for Jordan on LinkedIn. That's about all you really need to do. I mean, that's how well he uses that platform. He is really
Gotta keep it simple,
Yeah. One spot to shop. That's the way it is. So anyways, hope we didn't make it too weird for you, talking about the, all the things we talked about at the beginning, including Superman not having underpants anymore. But,
let's bring that one back in.
Yeah, we're going to bring that one back up on the next episode of the NerdBrand Podcast, which you can find at nerdbrandagency.com/podcast. You can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, and you can find us on Spotify. Moreover, we are still putting videos out of the podcast, our vodcast, if you will, onto YouTube. Now, we don't have a Vanity URL on YouTube. In order to get a Vanity URL, you got to have more subscribers and views. And I think we're getting there on the views. We just need some likes and subscribes. So if you want to go and watch this episode and see Jordan's face, so that you can, when you do find him on LinkedIn, you go like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. And you'll see how beautiful the beard is and everything. You'll be able to go like, I'm going to connect with that guy. So
that's only for that.
Yeah. So, and only for that, that's how I'm plugging our YouTube channel sorry, Jordan, I'm using you, but
I'm here for it.
Yeah. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube. And I'll tell you what, everybody, thanks for listening and watching. And remember, keep your nerd brand strong.